Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with your good friend and mine, Gundacker. See, I did the your, not the your good friend of mine.
But then you made a note that you didn't do it. So
invalidation of everything.
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Yeah, I've been up since the crack of dawn. My wife was off doing a run this morning, so she was up around 5, which made the dog bark, and the dog stood there barking on me, barking at her. It was like great. So I'm up, wrote my article. It's been good. Was up late last night doing a basketball draft live via Zoom. We were doing it I joined a league that's been around for 20 years now. I believe this is season 20. They were trying to figure that out last night. It's a group of Australian guys that were in, I think they were all in college together, or they worked at Ernst & Young together, something like that. And then one of my college friends lived in Australia for a while, so he got in the league and they needed somebody, and I'm in the league. So I've been in the league for like 12 or 13 years, but they said they wanted a shout out on the show. Usually we end up drafting while I'm on air. But we did it last night. It was afternoon time for them, so they were barbecuing. I was up way past my bedtime, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We got to do the Zoom call. It was very nice. So hat tip to the fanballers in Australia for the Fanball League. But you doing any basketball this year? Because we are 3 days away. The Tuesday, whatever day it is today. Tuesday it starts officially.
Yeah. Obviously basketball is one of my more profitable sports. It's actually what turned me like pro. So I'm absolutely doing basketball. Can't wait for it. I'm kind of like I don't have the daily grind right now. Baseball is whatever. You don't really have to think about it. So I feel like I'm on a mini vacation. So, but I know I'm going to miss this in about 4 days when we're babysitting news at 10:30.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a lot of fun coming up here. One thing I do want to say is we do have a few more days of NHL, and we've got a great NHL promotion right now. And for those of you that aren't really into NHL, as long as you have our tools and our content, it doesn't matter. It's going to turn you in, and you understand a little bit of the strategy. It's going to turn you into a good player. So we've got the NHL a deal. If you use the promo code CROSSCHECK, you can get $3 for all access for 1 week of Awesemo premium content. This includes the top stacks, of course, which is key. So it tells us which lines to stack. I can't never remember who's on which line, and they shift all the time. They take care of that for you. They say, this line number 1, and they tell you which 3 players are on it, and you're off and running. It's great. We have the top goalies and a whole lot more actual ownership for everybody, projections for everybody. And the best part is the Slack, and we're now transitioning to Discord, where you get the alerts, because NHL in their archaic ways likes to not announce who the goalies are until they actually set foot on the ice. There's a tradition in hockey that the first goalie off at morning skate is actually going to be the starter. That doesn't always hold true. It usually does, but you still got to wait till stuff's confirmed. And then you've got the Rangers who insist on not announcing their goalie until the very literal last minute, like it's some sort of advantage for them. It's not. Your goalies aren't that good. But in any event, I will say it's one of my more profitable sports. This will be I believe my 4th full season of playing every day. And I don't watch a ton of the games, but I go entirely off our content. And because we have that, the information alerts within our premium Slack channel, I can also play basketball at the same time and set lineups, and it's not an issue. So I will say it's one of my more lucrative sports, but I just want to give that a call out. All right. The reason we talk about hockey a little bit, it's the closest thing we have to baseball. Baseball, we're down to potentially 2 more 2-game slates. We've got one coming up, must be on Monday. And then if one of the series goes to a game 5, or it's not a sweep, then we will get a second 2-game slate. But we're rapidly running out here, Gundacker. Pitching, a little bit of a question mark here. We're not entirely sure yet who's going for the Dodgers. We'll make some suppositions. But the interesting thing is, even though last night we knew who the pitchers were, neither one made it out of the 3rd inning, I think. So did I tell you and I'm going to let you talk. Did I tell you my strategy of not playing pitchers in Showdown or limiting them very much? It's been working out nicely for me.
Yeah. No, it's definitely the quickest hook you'll see all year is in the postseason. I definitely want to get on a rant, but man, I disagree from the.
Hey, I just had one on 3 different topics. Knock yourself out.
We got time. I agree. First of all, to back up your NHL stuff, I don't know anything about NHL. I looked at the tools the other day. The ownerships went in the cruncher, made 50 lineups, made money. I don't know what I was doing. So yes, you don't have to actually know NHL. Just use the Awesemo tools, and you stand a fighting chance. But yeah, yesterday when they announced Chris Sale was the game 1 opener, and EMEC the championship series are best of 7. I don't know how. Like, I didn't understand the decision behind Eovaldi not being the game 1 starter. So that I get it. Chris Sale, historically he's Chris Sale, but Eovaldi has been your best pitcher and arguably the best pitcher in the AL this whole season. And I would want the most appearances out of him, and that didn't happen. And yeah, Chris Sale didn't last long, and then Valdez didn't last long. But yeah, like you said, we've been talking about the pitchers and their longevity or lack of longevity in the playoffs. It does kind of feel like them AL teams are just bopping and they're yoinking pitchers in the first sign of trouble. Whereas some of these NL pitchers, like, the Dodger pitchers, the Giant pitchers, they get a little bit longer, but I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but yeah, without question, the hook in these games, the stakes are never higher, and they'll yank you the first sight of trouble. So definitely a showdown. There's something to play with, and we've seen fading pitchers work out and be a high lukrativity levels of success.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun doing that, and we should still, until the NBA kicks up, these are still going to be pretty large size baseball showdown contests. And what they've been doing, even on the 2 and the 3 game slates, is those evening contests have been pretty big. That, of course, will be dwarfed once the NBA starts, which is going to be the 800-pound monster coming in and jumping in the puddle and splashing us all. But it's NBA and we know it's fun, so it's well worth it. But in the meantime, enjoy that. We also have college football today. All day we have Matt Gajewski and Ben Rossa coming up after us for DFS College Football Live Before Lock. Just before us, we had Josh Harris and Slim Cliffy breaking down the NHL slate today. I believe it's a 10-game slate today. I think 12 teams are in action in total, a couple early games, and then the remainder going off at 7 o'clock. Then, of course, we have the baseball. No live before lock. We're going to be the only baseball show, but coming on after us, we have 3 additional hours of NFL. We've got MMA live before lock. We have NASCAR strategy show. And then again, the featured NFL show is going to be Alex Baker in On the Contrary with Dave Loughran, and they will be joined by Rich Rebar today. So you'll definitely want to check that out as well. All right, let's do a little just kind of high-level analysis here. We've all seen these pitchers quite a few times in the last few days. Hasn't been a lot of noise because we're down to a handful of teams. So we've seen these matchups we've seen these pitchers coming out. We know there's going to be a relatively quick hook. We know we have some tremendous offenses taking the field today. 4 of the best in the league will be there. So first off, we've got Nathan Eovaldi going against Luis H. Garcia. Trivia: do you know how many Luis Garcias are active in the league right now?
I think it's 3, right? I definitely there's Luis H. Garcia, V. Garcia. Is there another?
There's
I know
A. Garcia, and then there's Luis Garcia. There are 4 total.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
Producer Tyler taking a victory lap around this room right now.
Between Luis Garcia and like Will Smith, man, my personal spreadsheet hates that because I'll get like pitcher pricing spit back, but then like the hitter stats, it's annoying. So I wish we saw a little bit more diversity in names. MLB. Yeah,
it's pretty funny. So the pandemic shortened year, there were 3 of them had made it, and I believe the 4th Luis Garcia, if I remember correctly, is for Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
So in any event, that was kind of fun. So between Tyler Johnson, who plays all the sports, D Brown, who plays all the sports, we have the Luis Garcia managing to play multiple positions for multiple teams.
Don't forget Don't forget Hunter Renfroe, all right?
Oh, the Hunter Renfroe, my favorite against lefties, Hunter Renfroe. Yes, so we've got that. Yeah, what are the odds of Hunter Renfroe? Two different spellings of the name and two different sports. Pretty wild. All right, but we've got Eovaldi going against Garcia here. Talk a little bit about the pitchers. Saw some home runs. Like what, 3, but it felt like more, but because it was the guys who we figured would get the home runs yesterday with Kike Hernandez, and then I'm blanking on who the others were. But my same game parlay got missed because I went RBI, no score in the first inning. It had 2 RBIs and no score in the first inning, and it was Jordan that got the RBI but blew up my no score in the first inning. You jerk. Yeah, same game parlay over.
Altuve got him one, and then Carlos Correa had one, and then did it's my time celebration instantly, which if I wasn't a salty Yankee fan, I would think that was one of the cooler celebrations, but I'm a salty Yankee fan. But Kike Hernandez had arguably the greatest game of his life, offensively and defensively, and they walk away with a loss. But if you believe in hot streaks, and the postseason becomes it seems like a bubble of a situation where people start looking at stuff that they never look at during the regular season, which is last 20 at bats, BVP. It's just like all the rules go out the window. We start playing 1990s fantasy baseball. But yeah, Kike Hernandez has been a man looking absolutely locked in. Eovaldi versus Garcia. Eovaldi, like I said, he led the American League in WAR, and that's why I mentioned earlier, I thought he should have been the game 1 starter. It's not like it would have been a short rest situation. And, Alex Cora and the Red Sox are known for being an analytical team. I just didn't understand the decision on Sale there. But I would imagine, the short hooks still exist, but you got to believe you're going to want a little bit more length out of Eovaldi than you got out of Sale yesterday at 7,700. That's one of those price points where I do believe it's a soft enough landing that even if he did just go 4 innings, if he ended up getting you a shot at 2x, 14 DKP, something like that, we can live with that in the postseason on a slate with 4 total pitchers. Garcia on the other side here, he's not somebody I think I'm going to be super intrigued with. About a 1-4 K rate to lefties and a 21% K rate to righties. So not staggering considering, this Red Sox team can be a little bit scrappy. And then, vice versa too. The Astros aren't free strikeouts by any stretch of the imagination either. But it's hard to project high offense. But this is the game that's projected to be more scoring than the National League game tonight. We got a 4.4 implied run total for the Astros and a 4.2 for the Red Sox. So I think they're working on ownership right now. But I feel like after last night, Kike Hernandez is going to come with a little bit of ownership on him, just a little bit of running back the hot hand, and he's just getting it done. So I don't mind thinking about whether or not he's worth going opposite on, fading him. Kyle Schwarber leading off potentially against a righty is always something I can get behind. Garcia's biggest weakness is power to righties. In the last 3 seasons, he's sustained over a 1.5 home run per 9 to lefties. So Kyle Schwarber, Rafael Devers, maybe even some Verdugo would line up as a pretty nice lane of a stack of bats to get behind. And then past that, you're just stacking the Astros based on talent, because not much is going to profile great against Eovaldi. Even though he's allowed a 260 plus average, he doesn't give up a lot of power, elevated ground ball rates to righties, and against lefties. I guess his fly ball rate's at 40%, but he hasn't really struggled with the long ball either. But I guess a guy like Jordan Alvarez can muscle one into the Crawford boxes as well as anyone. So I think this is the game most people will look at for offense, but I think I'll know for sure in a couple minutes on this one. But I don't think I'm on Garcia. I'll have a little bit of Eovaldi.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I've landed on this one as well. I'm just hoping for 3 relatively clean innings, and it seems like we're going to be lucky if anybody goes through the order twice, two full times. It seems like once is not a problem for these starters, and then it's that second time as soon as they start to get in a bit of trouble. If it's not one of the people that was flirting with being in the Cy Young race, then they just get pulled. which is a little bit tricky. Let's see. We do have, baseball projections are up, which means top stacks and pitching will be on, and ownership will be on the way here shortly. Some free content that we do have. It's NFL top stacks is free. That is the combination of probability for a quarterback in his top one, and then featured kind of separately in the mix, 2 receivers with him of being the top stack. It also allows you to see some leverage and what's going on with those. And then we have MMA today as well. So we've got, let's see, I know, wrong page here. We have the MMA fighter rankings, which is pretty solid as well. All right, looking, just continuing to break down the pitchers in our next game. We're not entirely sure who is going to go for the Dodgers. It seems like it is going to be Max Scherzer. He did pitch on Thursday, but technically that would be his bullpen day, and he just threw 13 pitches as he closed out the game. Kenley Jansen got the win. Scherzer got the save in that one. So I would expect him to be the starter tonight. Scherzer, where would you set his over under for? I think I'd set him at 5. Because I know he's going to stare down Dave Roberts, and that should buy him an extra 2, maybe 3 hitters. That might get him through the 5th inning today.
I mean, I think he goes as long as his stuff goes. He got through 7 innings against the Giants on the 11th. You know, that's 5 days ago.
These are not the Giants.
They're worse statistically, right? Like
I can't buy that. It's true. You're absolutely right. It's true. But I can't. I'm more scared of Freddie Freeman and Austin Riley and these guys than I was the Giants with no Brandon Belt.
Yeah, the Giants just don't get respect, I guess. What I will say is there's very few teams with as much history against Max than the Braves, coming from the NL East. So there's a lot of history there, and maybe the Braves, you know, they'll get him out quicker. But I mean, this is what you traded for Max for. So I think he goes as long as the stuff goes. And Max is one of the more, you know, adrenaline-based pitchers in the league, and this is a hit of the old adrenaline pipe in Game 1 of the AL or the NL. So I do think he goes as long as the stuff will go. Could that mean 5 innings, 4 innings? Could that mean 7 innings? It's there. The Braves, I think. I'm with you. They feel like the better offense than the Giants, even though they weren't. The Giants were really doggone good, but they have a lot of big ISO numbers in that lineup. But they also have a decent and maybe underrated elevated levels of strikeout rates. Austin Riley, Duvall, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, the pitcher spot, all 1 and 4 or greater. You might see some Jacques Peterson in this mix as well. I'm looking at him at a projected leadoff spot. You know, he's got a 22.9% carry since the beginning of last year. So there's still some strikeouts here. And if a guy like Max Scherzer is on one, I mean, this is a guy in a regular season would get to 10, 11K. Today you're getting 8,600. So even 4 innings, if he, you know, got you a strikeout per inning in a playoff scenario, 14 DKP might be tops, right? We don't expect a ton of crazy numbers like we usually see during the regular season. So I'm fine. I'll be there on Max. I'm very, very curious to see if Max is the highest owned pitcher on this slate. I feel like he should be, just based on his history of potentially going as deep as we've seen him go. And then, like you said, yeah, he pitched a couple days ago, but it was nothing, 10 pitches. And, he was more excited about the champagne than feeling that what is basically a bullpen night the day after. So I think he's good. And then Max Fried, he's been one of the guys with the most longevity in the last month of the regular season, and in the postseason as well. We've seen him go 6+ innings. So this game might push back on the quick hook pitcher situation, because these two pitchers do have the ability to go deep. And Max Fried's a guy that doesn't need to strike out pitch to go deep. He can pitch to contact and just ground ball you for 5-6 innings. And the Dodgers, I still think they're one of the more dangerous offenses in all of the Final Four. But we've definitely seen them, be aggressive, swing early, and we've seen pitchers go deep on them. So I think that's one of those spots where on a 4-game slate, it might be really uncomfortable to pitch against the Dodgers. But man, Max Fried is 6,800. That gives you a soft landing if he doesn't have his best stuff out of an SB2 spot. And then if he gives you 6 innings, 1 or 2 runs and maybe a strikeout per, I think that dog will hunt. So I kind of I like the price tag on Fried. Very curious to see where he lines up in ownership as well. I think from my first read here is I'll have Evaldi, Scherzer, Fried. I think Scherzer feels like he has the highest ceiling in terms of strikeout potential based on the Braves K numbers. Evaldi's kind of he's in a good spot, but the Astros could be scrappy enough to not really inflate his K numbers. And then Fried's a guy I just think at 6,800 he can eat innings and doesn't necessarily need the 9 Ks, but it's still something he can get. He had a 3.49 expected ERA on the season with almost a 24% K rate. So it's still something that he can get, and he's limiting barrel rates. He has looks like him and Evaldi have the lowest barrel rates of all the 4 pitchers on the slate. So I think he might be undervalued by the field. So I'm very interested in Fried if I can get him at a decent ownership on a 4-game slate or a 4-pitcher slate.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here to see who that pitcher is for the Dodgers. I mean,
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Max.
I think it almost has to be, but that is something, of course, we will want to pay attention to and see as we go throughout the day, because as soon as that news comes out and is confirmed, if it is Max, then hey, we'll be good to go with what we're going to be projecting here. If it's not, then our projections are going to be updated. Projections and ownership and all the tools are updated as soon as lineups are announced, or if anybody's scratched, or if anything like that happens. They've got a nice automated process that comes in and does some scooping, and then there's some helping hands on the back end that look at this stuff all day and get a baseline projection for a variety of things. Now, that is a little different when it comes to hockey and baseball, but they're all over it all the time for football. And there's multiple people on the Awesemo projections team that are looking at that. You're looking at a few multi-million-dollar winners that are overseeing the projections. And then for basketball, you've got a ton of people looking at it. Plus, even those that aren't on the official update projections team, like Josh and Adam are comparing Awesemo's our stuff to their own personal projections. And there's a constant back and forth. Terry runs his own projections as well. I'm about the only one that you do. I'm the only one that doesn't do their own projections, but I believe so much in our tools, I don't have to worry about that.
Oh yeah.
They're smarter than me when it comes to projections, but I know a lot of people like to get into the weeds because that's a lot of the fun. For me, it's playing all the sports, all the different slates, and utilizing our content to kind of back test it, see how it is. And there I am playing League of Legends, and wait for us, CS:GO, as we learned last weekend. I get the boomer title rescinded? I'm not even close to being a boomer.
Backwards hat, EMAC in the barbecue. Let's go.
Oh, always a good time. So let's take a peek here at where we are on. So we've got top stack. So let's look at that. They're futzing around with it's the ownership's kind of hard because the way how everything's set up, they have to go in and manually tweak it to make Scherzer go in, because they have it coming in from all their automated feeds, and because he's technically not confirmed, it's still a headache on the back end here, but they'll be looking at that. If we look at our top stacks tool, which is for offense, it looks like everything's kind of fanned out, I don't want to say evenly, but it should be no surprise. Atlanta near the bottom, they still have a 17% chance of being the top stack. Boston is first at 30%. The Dodgers are second at 28%. Houston at 25%. But anything can happen in these. All it takes is somebody melting down, somebody making a mistake with runners on, and this all goes out the window. And even though it looks like, oh my God, third of the time Boston's going to be the top stack, well, 70% of the time they're not. And when we only have 4 stacks, there's a lot of differentiation going on within our squads here. So turning back to our first game, let's look at sort of the projected hitters. We know pretty much who's going to be in the lineup here. Are you thinking, well, first hit the obvious, and then let's play around and see if we can find some contrarian stuff, because that'll also dovetail nicely with the showdown slates, the single game contest for people, because you can stack your hitters in there. So another way I found success in that is I go in the flex spot and I start building 3 and 4 man stacks. I just accept whoever else it's going to throw in at the other spot and at my captain spot, and I've been able to get some nice synergy that way. And still be different enough to where I'm not duping the people that are using a captain then trying to correlate from there.
Yeah, so I mean, I was looking at the top stacks update, and the thing that stood out, and it makes me think that I don't know if they're compensating for Max or not. You mentioned Atlanta with the 17.5% top stack percentage. That there's on the first run, they're coming in at 31% cumulative stack ownership, which logistically would suggest Max Scherzer could be the lowest owned pitcher. Which I like. That's why I don't think that happens. So I think it might be a matter of still trying to put those dominoes in a row because you want to be on the other side of whatever's the higher own, right? Like if the Braves come in chalky against Max, like yeah, well then I'm probably gonna hang my hat on Max Scherzer, and then vice versa, just based on trying to be the have the low ownership side of things in my lineup. So when it hits, it's a little bit more lucrative than when it doesn't. Um, yeah. So you said go back to the first game on
So let's start off here on the Red Sox side of thing. So I mean, obviously the clear plays are going to be Schwarber leading off. He's just, this has been a great season for him, even though he ended up spending a fair amount of time on the shelf with his hamstring injury. He had like 15 home runs in 20 days or something crazy like that with the Nationals before he was injured and then got traded to Boston. While he hasn't quite picked up to that level, he's just been a phenomenal option for them. I also like Rafael Devers. Of course, they're going to get a little boost tonight because it's a lefty-lefty match or lefty-righty matchup, and we've seen him in a couple lefty-lefty matchups. The other guy I like is I'm willing to go all the way down to Alex Verdugo. I think he's kind of interesting there just for a little bit of one differentiation, a little bit of salary saving. So he's 38 on DK, 31 on FanDuel, 15 on Yahoo. That it just gives you a little bit of a bump it frees up a little bit of salary cap so you can utilize your asset allocation to other spots or to your pitchers. And in this case, there are some strategies where you do want to look at spending on your pitchers. While I'm not going to go overboard with that, I am going to do a fair amount of mixing and matching, because all I'm hoping for, this is almost like we talk about the short NBA slates where it's a function of raw points. There are 4 pitchers that are probably going to be the 4 highest scoring pitchers. They should, in most cases, at least 3 of them are going to outscore any of the relievers. There's no points for saves. So you want to find the combination that ends up with the top 2, and hopefully nobody goes negative. Or if you do, then those are wasted lineups. If somebody gets a -5, -7, and everybody else gets, 12 points, or it's not exciting, but that's a big difference. That's a 20-point gap. So it'd be like someone getting to the vaunted 2022 DKP from Gundacker and somebody else not getting any. So it's what am I saying? Proportionally is where it's important.
Yeah. Man, it's these 4 gamers, man. These are the same teams we've been working with over and over. What I do sometimes is I like to look at pitch types and hitters' success rates against pitch types. Luis Garcia does have a splitter, but he doesn't lean on it a ton. He's basically a fastball slider type of guy. So I would key in on maybe some Red Sox that hit that really, really well, and surprised, but Kyle Schwarber hits the fastball pretty doggone well. And then Xander Bogaerts. One of the things that I'm curious with on the Astro side, I know Lance McCullers got injured. It does feel like either Zach Greinke or Jake Odorizzi would be set up to be a long man type of situation. And looking at yesterday's game for the Astros, everyone but Greinke, Taylor, and I think Odorizzi basically came out and threw pitches. Kristen Javier was kind of their MVP. He threw almost 30 pitches. Kendall Graveman, of course, came in at the end. I know a lot of these guys would be eligible to pitch 2 days in a row, but if Garcia only went an inning or 2, you might see Dusty Baker try and get a little bit of the length out of a Greinke or an Odorizzi if they were primed for that situation. So that might be something that, if you're running a crazy amount of lineups on a 4-game slate, you might kind of game plan for that. And we know Greinke is one of those guys that does suffer with power problems to righties. So a guy like Xander Bogaerts, who profiles well against a fastball, one of Garcia's main pitches, could also set up pretty well against maybe a round or 2 against Zach Greinke. So I do like the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox would be Definitely one of my top two stacks without looking at ownership, and then I would let ownership kind of sway whether or not I went bullish or not. And then of course, one of the things that we could watch for Minute Maid here is to see if they do opt to open the roof. Even though the temperatures are dropping down here in Texas, so it's a cool, brisk 56 degrees right now, which is insane versus what it was last week. But yeah, I think that's the game that feels more offensive, but I guess Truist Park has been hitter friendly since its inception. So I mean, I feel like we're really trying to reach here to.
We're good, but I'm looking to see they haven't posted yet on the roof.
No,
sadly. But if you guys go to astrosroof.mlbblogs.com, they are the best. Michael Hurley runs that site. He generally will have that information relatively up to date on that. All right, so that kind of hits everything we can look at for Boston from the Houston side. Oh, but yeah, by the way, so good call out on that. I think we should expect, especially since I was talking about the lefties, there's really only one lefty in the bullpen. You mentioned it for the Astros, Taylor, but I would guess we're going to see more more Greinke than anything else if they need a bulk guy, and people can mix and match in, but I think we're going to see mostly righties, so that bodes well for the lefties with keeping the platoon advantage for a fair portion of the game. On our other side here, Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, of course, are usually my two favorite hitters, regardless of whether they're going against righties or lefties. Eovaldi has done a pretty good job of limiting power. That was one of his issues throughout his time. He's gotten a little bit more movement on his fastball, and just everything was working out in his favor this year. Back to his days with the Yankees, and before that, when he pitched for Tampa Bay, he always had that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but it was incredibly straight and didn't have a lot of movement. So that's something he's been working on. It seems like everything's come to fruition and culminated in a fantastic season, as Gundacker alluded to, where he was the top guy for WAR, which is wins above replacement. Aside from Alvarez and Tucker, I always, much like everybody in the DFS community, wave off Michael Brantley, which arguably he should be their most complete hitter, but he's just never exciting. I mean, doubles when we have all those home runs in that lineup. What do you want to do with the rest of the Stros?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the postseason, hit for average guys are better than the public perception, man. This is, best pitchers in the league that have lasted as long as they have right now. And a guy like Eovaldi, a guy like Freddie Freeman, guys that are going to hit 300 plus on an average, a couple hits here and there goes a long way. I think Brantley might have got robbed by Kike last night. And if he was in, if that ball drops, 2 RBI single is worth a lot in a postseason scenario, in my estimation. And he comes in really, really cheap. I really like his price point on FanDuel at 2,400. I don't like picking on Eovaldi by any stretch, but getting into that bullpen, I think the Red Sox bullpen is really not something to run from. They went to Ottavino quick yesterday. I don't imagine they would like to see Ottavino back to back, especially against a lefty or two. But I do think both of these bullpens are definitely not as strong as we're accustomed to, right? A lot of teams can chop games in half. They don't really have that ability here. They kind of like string it together and hope that their bats outperform their arms here. So there's not really a side that I would be scared of. So another thing with these two teams that we don't really have to deal with, that we might get into on the Braves and Dodgers, is you're probably going to get 5 at-bats from everyone, right? There might be a couple of defensive substitutions late, but with the AL rules, there's not going to be a lot of double switching going on. Like we'll definitely see Dave Roberts deploy out there. And then, like I said, if Jacques Peterson did start today, more than likely he wouldn't finish. And that would be something you have to deal with. So you get a little bit more implied at-bats or implied plate appearances to kind of feel a little bit more confident on. So more reason to land on that. But yeah, to your point, Michael Brantley, not fun because of what we know from 162 games of chasing home runs, but in the playoffs, some of these slates you'll get less than 5 homers, and you're going to need those guys that can maybe get a couple hits and drive in 1 or 2 and touch home plate, and power is not as important.
All right, before we head on to our second game and talk about the offenses there, please do hit that like button and subscribe. We blew past 60,000 subscribers on this channel. That is phenomenal. We do have two other channels here. We have the Awesemo Odds or Awesemo Sports Betting YouTube channel. And then, of course, we have Awesemo Fantasy Football. We do shows on Sunday on both those channels as well. As 4 hours on this channel, the 4 hours before lock, but you'll get a simulcast starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow on the Awesemo Odds betting channel. That will be with Ben Raza as the featured analyst. He will be breaking down a variety of props and sides, lines, parlays, etc. You can also get a lot of his information in the Awesemo Premium Discord Slack channels. So that is very helpful. And then we are brought to you today by Jock Market. Fantasy sports turned into a stock exchange. Get it? Jock Market, stock market. Oh, what a way to go. You can make money every minute, every second, every hour of every game. Buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money using the exclusive Awesemo promo code. You can get up to a $50 bonus on your first deposit. Download their app today. You can download that in Google Play or the App Store. You can also go to JOKMKT.com and download the app onto your computer from their site. You can use the pregame IPOs to pick up shares of your favorite players. Again, buy, sell, hold during the game. And then based upon their performances, you get paid out at the end of the night. Definitely want to check this out. It is a lot of time or a lot of fun. We do have projections for their formats, and this is something that is incredibly helpful for those of you that are coming in and dabbling right off the bat, especially because if you are a new user on your first slate, your first day of playing, if you're playing NFL, if you don't make a profit, they will refund you up to $100. So you basically get a $100 free roll. And if you make a profit on that, so if you make 110 back, you've made $10. If you lose, they'll cover you up to $100 in losses. They want you to go over there and try out their format. It is a lot of fun. There's a rousing discussion group in the Discord and Slack chats as well, covering different strategies. And it's really fun for football. It's even better for basketball. But that is Jock Market. Promo code Awesemo gets you a $50 match on your first deposit. And again, for your first NFL slate, for a new time user, they'll refund you up to $100 if you don't make a profit on your first NFL slate. All righty, let's turn ourselves over to the afternoon stuff here. Well, maybe not ourselves, but let me reset my filters in any event. So Atlanta going against Scherzer. We talked a little bit about, while they've seen him a lot, nobody has dramatically crushed Scherzer. He's got their active hitters have 183 at bats against him. They do have a 261 average, 301 on base percentage, and a 377 slugging. So there really hasn't been a ton of power. There's been 19 extra base hits in these 183 at bats, so about 1 every 10. That's kind of about normal. You've got Travis d'Arnaud does have 4 extra base hits in his 5 hits, but he only has a 192 average, so not much to see there. Freddie Freeman has a 234 average. He does have 3 home runs and 7 doubles. He also has 7 walks. He does lead the way with 12 strikeouts. And then Jacques Peterson, of course, has not really connected yet. 2 of 16 with a double, although he strikes out almost half the time against Scherzer. What is your insights that you have here for Jacques Peterson and the others? Solaire's out with COVID, I believe, for at least for this game, if not more.
Okay, so then we would probably expect Matt or Jacques Peterson to have a chance at starting and staying in there the whole game. So yeah, I don't mind that.
Is this a remember me game? Why, yes, it is.
I think he has 3 pinch hit homers on the postseason, at least 2, maybe 3. I think it's 2 and like 3. I have a homer in my, I don't know, I don't want to get stuck on BVP, but I have a homer in my Jacques Peterson max thing, and I think that might be pulling from a postseason situation. But yeah, I don't, that's where we're at, me and Mac. We're discussing BVP. Yeah, if Jacques Peterson does,
I led us there. You can say you only followed what the host did.
No, I mean, yeah, we're waiting for the projections to kind of catch up. I'm looking at the the total ownership projections, the main slate ownership projections, which are live, it doesn't look like it's compensating for Max Scherzer. So I don't want to lean too hard because I feel like, we got Fried at 77%, Garcia 64%, Eovaldi at 60% with no Scherzer. I definitely feel like Scherzer throws a big wrinkle and a ripple effect on all those numbers. So
I think what they do, if it's not officially announced, they're just running a league average righty through there. So these are proportionally correct. So I think what you would say is, well, what would happen if Scherzer comes in? I would probably back about a third off everybody else of what you're seeing there now and put that over on Scherzer. And that would get him right up to the top of the foursome there.
Yeah. And like I said, if Scherzer comes in, he's the potential to be the best pitcher on the planet any given Sunday. So at 8,600, I'm in on that. But if the Braves with Soler down, if they lead off with Jacques, I'm in on that. It is the postseason, so they might get a little different. Jacques, who's just been a pinch hit extraordinaire. Maybe they want somebody that's a little bit more comfortable right now. Maybe put a Albies or somebody like that in the leadoff spot, and you might see that transpire. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, I definitely like the upside of the Braves team, and these home games are there's so much more pressure to win these home games, especially when you're up against a giant like the Dodgers here. They'll by hook or by crook themselves to try and manufacture runs if you get on against Max Scherzer. So maybe look for a little bit more aggressiveness on the base pass. Albies would be the guy I think has the he checks all the boxes when it comes to a guy with a little bit of power, a little bit of contact, and a little bit of stolen base potential. So I'm kind of looking to see whether or not he leads off, but this is definitely a sink or swim type of a lineup against Max Scherzer. He's been holding a 34% overall K rate. When he's off and he's not as sharp, yeah, he has some power problems. But a guy that leans on the fastball as much as he does, especially in a park like this, but temperatures are dropping all across the nation. So some of those, homers turn back into those warning track flyouts here. So I definitely think this game could get devoid or suppressed in terms of runs scored. But yeah, I would take Freeman just because of his hit for average prowess. And then probably Ozzy Albies. Those are my two favorite hitters. If Jacques did lead off, I mean, that's the sit on the first pitch fastball, swing for the fences situation. He is 2,200 on FanDuel. I think that would be attached to some elevated ownership. You talk about him, Michael Brantley's price points. Those two in your lineup pretty much unlock the whole slate. So that's probably something I would keep in my back pocket for FanDuel lineups if I was building a limited quantity. And yeah.
All right. So this is how deep we're going. So this will be the third time Scherzer has gone against the Braves this season. He started out the year going against them. In his first start, they had Acuna leading off. Albies was second because obviously Acuna was not hurt, and that was back when Marcell Ozuna was still playing for the Braves. The last time they faced him, they did lead off with Jacques Peterson. They put Dansby Swanson second. Freeman was third. Riley was fourth. So we're not entirely sure what they're going to do. I would lean probably towards Jacques Peterson, and the main reason I would lean towards him leading off, the more opportunities he gets against Scherzer to connect, that's all they have, as Gunnar said, that's all they have him out there for. And then he's going to be a pinch hit risk or a double switch candidate as the game gets going a little deeper. What if you were looking to target specific Dodgers? Why did I think this game was my brain is just not working. So what happens when you stay up late?
You think the better team, Dodgers, with the much better win record is the road team. Yes, that's happening.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, wow, there it is. So the other interesting thing we have here, if we look at the Dodgers, is Chris Taylor and Pujols could be in the lineup because they are going against a lefty. That means there's a pretty good chance that former NL MVP Cody Bellinger is going to be coming off the bench. Bellinger and his 165 average this season, no bueno, but he did help them in the playoffs. And I guess that's all that really matters at this point. But how are you feeling about maybe a little Albert Pujols love just to mix things up a touch? Would you burn a first base position on it if he's batting in the bottom third of the lineup for the Dodgers?
Yeah, it's possibly starts against a lefty, sure, 2,300. First base is definitely the deepest position, perhaps with Freeman. I guess Schwarber's dual position. Yeah, I guess it's not as deep as I was thinking it
Yeah,
would
because
be.
we're looking at Yuli Gurriel. It's kind of you know, I mean,
yeah, if you slide Schwarber to the outfield, yeah,
Pujols will be pinch hit for as soon as the lefty comes out if he does get in the lineup.
Yeah, he definitely has the ability to. I mean, that's basically all he's good for right now is to hit lefty. So, yeah, I would just let the Opto work his magic here if he found himself in a decent spot. I think Trey Turner's easily my favorite Dodgers bat to target. Mookie Betts. I think Mookie's numbers against lefties definitely aren't as staggering. Maybe you see Dave Roberts, put Trey Turner at the top of the lineup. I think against the Giants, it was all righties, right? They just have all righty starters. And during the season, we saw the Dodgers deploy different lineups against lefties. And you would like to, if you steal a game in Atlanta, you take home field advantage. So you would like to see, or you would think Dave Roberts does deploy a lineup to maybe try and steal one against. I would say steal because it's the Dodgers, but you want to win one on the road to flip the home field advantage. So I think there is a world where Mookie doesn't lead off in this spot against a lefty. You might see the Trey Turner at the top lineup. You probably see Justin Turner top 4, top 3, something like that. And then a guy like AJ Pollock, he's still built tough enough against lefty. So I'm in on that. Just kind of look out for Mookie. Mookie's one of those guys that probably man, I don't know. I definitely believe in Mookie, but his success against lefties isn't quite what we're used to and accustomed to against righties, and usually comes with a higher ownership that I like to flip on shorter slates. But all bets are off on this slate. I'm probably just gonna spin stacks. The other thing we discussed briefly last week, since this is an opportunity to talk a little bit of strategy, is I'm willing to unlock maybe 3 hitters against my pitcher, but at least 2. And looking at the field last week in the last 2 game slate, people aren't doing that, EMAC. People are just letting the default settings where you're not getting hitters against your pitchers, and that's really not it's counter intuitive, counterproductive from what we know all season long. But that's really what we got to go. If some of these pitchers only go 2 or 3 innings, it's fine to go get a hitter against the bullpen arm, or even if the hit for average guy gets on against your pitcher. So I would say be cognitive if you guys are playing with your optimizer, running a decent quantity of lineups, to meditate on opening some bats against your pitchers and letting the opto really get its hands on some of the better players on the slate, even if it does not correlate with what you've trained yourself.
Incredibly used to.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have anything up on the bomb detector? Take a peek at that.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody we do have another 7 hours of shows behind us. Coming up in 9 minutes is the college football live before lock. We have the NHL strategy show already recorded. We have 3 hours of NFL content coming out. We've got NASCAR strategy show. We've got MMA live before lock. Of course, the featured show is at 1:30 today. That is On the Contrary with Alex Baker, Dave Loughran, and today's special guest will be Rich Aribar. So you guys will definitely want to check that out. And sort of as Gundacker was saying, we have LeBron chalk. Instead of that, you want the Elmo gift where Elmo's just raising his hands and there's fire. That's what you do when you lift those settings in your optimizer. Just spray and pray and crack open a cold one at first pitch. What do you have here for home runs? And we'll get on out of here.
So the guy with the highest rating in my model is actually Ozzy Albies. Now, highest subjective. This isn't your typical big score day in terms of bomb rating, but he's the only guy with a 4+, and that's the metric I'm looking for, 4 or better. But there's a couple guys right below 4. I got Alex Bregman 3.97, Adam Duvall 3.94. So Albies, Bregman, Duvall are the guys with the highest numbers in my model, and then not too far behind is Alvarez and Schwarber, and those are guys who are chipping a chair anytime they make contact.
All right. With that, we're going to get on out of here. Hat tip to Jacques Market, who was the sponsor of the show. Reminder, they've turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Download their app. Get started today. They're in Google Play. They are in the App Store, or you can go to their website, Jacques Market, MKT. .com and download their app to your computer. Reminder, use the promo code Awesemo to get a deposit match up to $50 with your first deposit. And then if you are a new user in your first market for NFL, they will guarantee you up to a $100 refund if you do not profit in that first slate. So check it out. Have some fun with that. And with that, you can follow Gundacker on Twitter at Gundacker. I am at EMAC DFS. And of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, Tyler, the producer, good luck.